do this with a poll here. Okay, so this is a poll which is not to do with AI, but play along with me as we do this poll. So I'm going to ask you a question about renewable energy. So which of these countries, there are 4 countries, and I've picked all 4 of them that start with E, which of these countries is powered almost 100% by renewable energy? Okay, so just type in the chat A, B, C, or D. Okay, so we can see there's Ethiopia and Ecuador, Ecuador and Ethiopia, A, B, C, or D. Okay, Estonia's winning at the moment. Okay, thanks everyone. Let me give you the answer. So the answer to this is Ethiopia. Ethiopia is powered almost 100% by renewables, which in this case is almost all hydropower. And the first person to get that right was Fiona. Congratulations. Okay, so the reason I'm sharing this with you, the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm now going to ask you, this is the original question, I'm going to ask you a second question, which is very similar. So you know the answer now to the first question. This is not a trick. It's not a trick question anyway. It's almost exactly the same question. Which of these countries is powered almost completely by renewable energy? Again, answer A, B, C, or D. Okay, and it should be obvious now. Okay, so interestingly, some people still answered A or C, but I've already told the answer, right? The answer is obviously it's none of the above, because the country that is, Ethiopia, doesn't appear on that list, right? It's obvious. So thank you to everyone who did that, especially Lisa, who did that one first. But here's the point. So if you ask ChatGPT these questions, the 2 questions, it will get the right answer both times, because ChatGPT has been trained on a huge amount of data. However, the reason that I'm showing this to you is because researchers did a similar experiment, but they did it with students who are studying to be doctors, so medical students, and they asked ChatGPT the sort of questions that are typically asked in a medical exam. And ChatGPT, you may have heard, is really, really good at passing medical exams and law exams and a whole bunch of other things. But remember, the way that it's trained is that it takes in all this information, including past exam papers. So the researchers were trying to figure out, is ChatGPT really smart, or is it just learning from these patterns? So they asked a question like this. They didn't ask this country's question, but they asked a very complex medical question, which was from a past exam paper. And ChatGPT got it right. When they changed it slightly, where for the correct answer, they just put none of the above. Now, a human should have been able to get that right because it's exactly the same question, right? But ChatGPT couldn't get it right. It got confused because even though the questions are pretty similar, you should be able to guess know the answer. If you know the answer to the first one, you should know the answer to the second. But because ChatGPT hadn't been trained on that data, it couldn't understand the pattern to look for, to match from its data set. Because the data set was small, because if you're thinking about the medical knowledge compared to the whole world knowledge about geography and renewable energy, it's very small. So the more and more narrow your area of expertise gets, the worse that AI gets in being able to address the problems in that area. So in other words, the smarter you need to be able to solve a problem, the worse AI becomes. It's not true of general purpose problems, but it is true as we're getting to smarter and to more and more sophisticated problems. Just because the way that AI works is been trained on lots of information.